Let's be honest. Are you getting a bit fed up with all the AI chat? Whether it's going to steal our jobs, destroy the world, or become our new best mate? Well, if you are definitely not alone. There's this growing, very human resistance to AI creeping into, well, every part of our lives. So let's get into this pushback and figure out why more and more people are starting to say no.
This quote, it just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It's so raw and simple, and I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling. The frustration isn't just about the tech itself, it's about what we're losing, that real human connection.
So yeah, this isn't just a quiet grumble in the background anymore. The pushback against AI is getting louder, it's getting more organized, it's spilling out of online forums and into our everyday chats, and it's even starting to create its own language, as you're about to see.
This just nails that shared feeling of irritation, right? We've all had that slightly weird conversation with a chatbot that's trying way too hard to sound human. It leaves you with this feeling that you're being sort of, well, played by a machine that's just pretending to get you, when we all know it can't. And here is a perfect example of that frustration turning into its own little cultural movement. The word clanker. It might have started off as a bit of a joke, but it's now the go-to term for Gen Z to diss any annoying bot or AI. Stuck in a phone loop with an automated system? That's a clanker. Self-driving car being a bit of a pain? Clanker. It's this fun, slightly cheeky term for a group that, let's face it, has no feelings to hurt. Robot. Okay, so let's dig into how this general annoyance is having a very real impact on people's actual jobs and art forms. And we're going to look at it through the eyes of a creative professional.
This is from April Dottie. She's an audiobook narrator, and she just puts her finger right on the pulse of the problem. For creative people like her, it's not about efficiency. The real issue is that AI is becoming a barrier. It's getting in the way of expressing real, honest-to-God emotion, whether that's in a work of art or just a simple chat.
So what is actually getting lost in translation here? Well, a human narrator takes the author's words and filters them through their own life experiences, their own feelings, and that creates something totally unique, a piece of art. An AI voice, on the other hand, is basically just an empty vessel. It can copy sounds, sure, but it can't replicate the actual meaning and the heart behind them.
And this is the fundamental argument, isn't it? How can something that has never, ever felt love or fear or rejection ever truly communicate those feelings? It's a performance of emotion, not a genuine expression of it. And for a lot of artists and a lot of us listening, that's just not good enough. Right, let's switch gears a bit. We're moving away from the arts and into an area that really affects all of us: education. The worry here is that generative AI isn't just a handy tool for homework. It might actually be stopping learning from happening at all.
Get a load of this number, 98%. A professor showed his students their new class average, which had shot out from just 58% on their last paper. You'd think that's an amazing improvement, right? But the professor, he smelled a rat.
And he was bang on. He gave the students a personal test on the papers they'd supposedly written, and they just couldn't answer the questions. As one student actually admitted, I could not provide another thing on this paper because I didn't write it. They hadn't done the work, you see, or the thinking. The AI had done it all for them. And it seems like the students themselves are actually aware of this problem. A recent report from Oxford University Press found that the majority of students feel AI is having a negative impact on their learning skills. And a quarter of them straight up admit it just makes things too easy, robbing them of that struggle that's so crucial for real, deep learning.
So ultimately, for teachers, this goes way beyond just catching someone plagiarizing. The bigger, much deeper fear is what they're calling the failure to learn. If students can just get answers handed to them by a machine, they risk losing that curiosity and the critical thinking skills that only come from actually wrestling with a problem yourself.
So far, we've talked about what it's like for us, the users, to interact with AI. But now, we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit. Because behind that slick, shiny image of artificial intelligence, there is a huge, hidden, and often exploited human workforce.
This is such a great question to ask, isn't it? We call it artificial, but as one researcher, Angela Chukunzer, points out, how can it be artificial when people are building it? This intelligence doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's being built piece by painful piece by human beings.
And this slide just lays out the grim reality for many of those people. They're called data labelers, often working in the global south on dodgy contracts training these AI models. They're the ones teaching the machine to tell the difference between a cat and a car, or a dead body. They're often exposed to incredibly graphic, disturbing stuff all day, every day. And the psychological toll is just immense. These workers report things like permanent insomnia and PTSD. As the quote says, their entire sense of reality can be totally altered by what they're forced to look at. And there's often little to no mental health support. This is the unseen human cost of this AI revolution. This brings us to our final and maybe the most important section. We are told constantly that AI is the future, that its takeover is just inevitable. But is that actually true? Or is it just a really, really effective marketing slogan? Now this reveals a fascinating bit of hypocrisy. When OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, launched its first massive brand campaign, did it use its own world-changing AI? Nope. It spent millions of pounds hiring human creative agencies. What does that tell you about where the real value in creativity lies? You see, the whole narrative of AI being inevitable only works if we all buy into it, but we don't have to. And as the slide shows, pushing back can be really simple. It starts with just questioning the hype, making a conscious choice to speak to a human instead of a bot, and just talking about it with people around you, encouraging them to maybe pump the brakes a little.
And this quote really gets to the heart of the strategy. The idea that AI is this unstoppable force, it isn't a fact, it's a story. And it's a story designed, maybe, to make us feel powerless, to stop us from asking where all of this is actually going.
And so that's where we are. We're at a crossroads. The future isn't set in stone, which leaves us with a really fundamental choice. Should we be the ones controlling this technology, shaping it to serve our best interests? Or are we just going to let it control us? That's the question we all need to start asking ourselves.